Ross. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas. I think I'll start by giving you a little bit of my background. I studied counseling psychology at Boston College and graduated in 2002. I've worked with a lot of different populations, from adolescents and anger management to an inpatient unit, residential treatment, you name it. The last 5 years I've really concentrated on treating trauma, really chronic trauma, and I really enjoy that. So one of the things I've learned in trying to get involved in the community is that there's still a lot of stigma around mental health. There's a lot of barriers to people wanting to come in and seek treatment or learn how to be well mentally. So one of the things I tried to do in my community was I created my Facebook page, and I do a lot of mental health content. Actually, that's all I do is mental health content, and I provide education, I answer questions, and I really try to foster an environment where people can feel safe to talk about their mental health struggles, get support, have questions answered, and find resources when I'm able to do that, because it's hard to do that all across the world. So that's why I'm here. The Facebook page, it just didn't end up being enough information. People wanted more and more, and every month at the end of the month I ask people, what would you like to talk about next month? And October is Depression Awareness Month, so we decided to focus on depression. And the first question, or it wasn't even the first question, the most asked question that I was getting was, what does depression do in the brain? And that sounds like a really straightforward question where I'd just be able to come in and be like, oh, depression hits there and there, and that's how you fix depression, but it's really complicated. There's lots of different layers. First layer is, what kind of depression are you coming in with? If you have bipolar depression, it affects this part of the brain. If you have unilateral depression, there's a couple of different theories to how that happens. Is it postpartum depression related to hormones after giving birth? There's so many different components that go into it. And even as a group of mental health professionals, we don't exactly agree on where depression is in the brain. So I'm going to tell you about the different spheres of self, is what I call it. So there are different aspects of self. There's mind, body, and spirit, and they all work together, in my mind, to the greatest good of the soul. So in the medical model, or in the body portion, if your body is going awry, you'll go to a medical professional. And if you ask them what's happening in depression, they won't even agree, because there's a couple of different theories they have. So one theory is that neurotransmitters are deficient. So serotonin and norepinephrine are low, and that causes mood differences or low mood. There's been research that supported that, and then there's been research that couldn't confirm that. Another medical model idea theory behind the causes of depression is decreased blood flow through the middle of your brain. So and I'll put this in the comments, but when they image the brain and the blood flow that's going to the different parts of the brain, people who struggle with depression have less blood flow showing up than people who are not reporting being depressed. So that's another theory, is that there's not enough blood flow going to the brain. I'll show you the parts of the brain, just because it's a lot of fun to play with this thing, that are thought to be involved. It is the cortex, which is involved in reasoning and thinking, and the, I don't want to get this right because there's two that sound the same, and the hippocampus, and the hypothalamus is right below, but that's thought to be up, and these two are thought to be low. So not enough activity there is also thought to lead to depression. So medical providers don't exactly agree on what's going on in the brain, but tend to treat it the same. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors are a medication that's given to impact the amount of serotonin sucked back into the neurons. So it tries to keep more serotonin in your brain, which is supposed to elevate your mood, and eventually it hits the norepinephrine too, because the systems are all related. So that's a very Western medicine, medical model idea of what's happening in the brain if you're depressed. Now, if you go to mental health providers, practitioners like me, therapists, we're not going to agree necessarily on what causes depression either. We all have different schools of thought too. So it would depend on what theory you adhere to. If you're a strict behavioralist, you would say that classical conditioning, thinking Pavlov, ringing dogs, eating, that this caused this. So it would be classical conditioning, how you were brought up caused the depression. If you were more of a psychodynamic or psychoanalytic, like Freud or Carl Jung, if you adhere to that theory in your practice, you would think that it was early childhood experiences, a lot of the times with the mom, that caused the depression, and going back over and talking about those would be the path to getting well. There's person-centered, there's so many different theories of thought and psychology, and each of us come with our own kind of training and clinical bias, and we bring that to the table when you come in to see us. So it could be a very different experience deciding on who you go to. So me, I adhere to a totally made up kind of psychology. I call it intuitive psychology because I just don't Google it, because it's not going to be in there until I go back to grad school and make a theory. But to me, it's I don't really want to do that and prove it. I just want to help people heal. And so for me, I work with all three spheres of the person and try to figure out what part of them is causing the dysfunction, right? So Eastern medicine, I'll use traditional Chinese medicine. They've known these things for years. They've known that the different parts of the person work together to create wellness or to create disease. So they believe in energy, qi, that courses through the person, and blockages or stagnation in the energy anywhere will cause disease, and physical and mental ailments. So in their thinking, depression is a stagnation often in the liver. And so they will provide treatment that includes acupuncture, herbs, they'll recommend dietary changes, and exercise. Did you hear that? Like they're tapping all three spheres of that person to try to help make them well. I feel like we'll catch up to that eventually, but we're not quite there yet. We do as a profession now understand more that the mind and the body are interconnected. The body keeps the score. Love that book. We're starting to really see how the body and the mind work together or in opposition to create disease or to create wellness. So I think we will get there, but we still have some ways to go. So when somebody comes in to me and they're I'm sorry, I have to have a soda break. And they're describing symptoms of depression, for one, they're coming to me, so the mind's probably what's causing them the most distress in their lives. So we'll probably start there. But as we grow to know each other and they start to talk about their diet and how much they move their body and how they feel about their body and those things, and start to kind of acknowledge some stuffed emotions, you start to see the way the body plays into it. And if a person's depression is sticky, like they're having trouble doing like cognitive behavioral changing patterns of behavior, I'll start to try to come at it a different way, because if you start to heal what the body's doing, the mind will follow, and vice versa. So you can start to heal the mind and the body will follow. But it is important to think about every different sphere of your existence, not just heal one, because if I heal my mind and then I go back out into the world, but I haven't untrapped the emotion, or I haven't healed the body portion of it, haven't changed how much serotonin I get by eating a proper diet or getting enough sunshine or moving my body, if I haven't done those things, I'm gonna lapse right back into the symptoms that caused me to come in the first place. So you can't just treat one and then call it a day. It's not that simple. And that's why people don't often find complete relief from depression with just medication alone. It involves having to move your body and eat healthy and see a therapist and kind of work out some of those stuck emotions. So I feel like that question of where is depression in the brain, I think people were going to think it was going to be like, okay, it's right here and this is what you do medically to fix it. And it's really just not that simple. It's very convoluted. And I really feel like our medicine will catch up to that eventually. Like we know serotonin's made in the gut now. And so we talk about gut health, and in traditional Western ways, we decide to add a bunch of chemicals to our gut to fix it and make it perform better. And really the fix is to just let your body do what it's doing. Your body is miraculously made, will heal itself, will fix the dysfunctions if you give it a chance, but you've got to fuel it with the things it needs to be able to do that. So I have a feeling this video is going to create way more questions than what people thought, because I bet you thought you were going to get a straightforward, here it is, and this is what you do to fix it. So put your questions in the comments. If you're not comfortable doing it publicly, you can always private message me on the Facebook page. Follow me there for the content all month long on depression. We'll talk about symptoms, and we will talk about lots of different ways to address it naturally, with medication, with therapy. We're going to talk about a lot, and we really hope you'll join the conversation.